gentlemen, welcome to the show. Neil, pick up the fat lad here in the mother fluffing house. And I'm joined by a very, very good friend of mine who's making his way back into the sport of arm wrestling. For anybody out there who doesn't know this guy, oh, this man is a walking piece of history. He's a trailblazer. He's a torchbearer. He was the OG of YouTube Arm Wrestling 101. Ladies and gentlemen, Gary Roberts is my guest on the show. And there is, what's your boy's name, mate?
Odin.
Odin Roberts. There he is. What a dude. Just hold him up again, mate, so we can have a look at a little Odin. So look, when he's kicking ass in a little while, we'll say you got the first view of him. Tremendous stuff. Gary, welcome to the show, mate. There he is, Odin, with extreme close-up.
Neil, your intro, you're always the best, man. You know how to really talk up a man.
We're getting some early evening sunshine there in the UK, so I had to shut it out. It's great to have you on the show, Gary.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, mate, I've been looking forward to this. And this is our second attempt.
Yeah, sorry about the hiccups on the last one.
So, Gary, mate, second
Neil.
time, not parked in a tree.
Yeah, the reason I did that is because it was so bright in the background. I had to get like the car in an angle that was shady, and I had to back up into some bushes.
It was ace. Absolute quality. I know you'd gone out and about because Odin was up and about and making some noise, so you figured you better get out of the house and park in a tree. Well, good, brother. We're here eventually.
Yeah.
But, mate, as I said, I'm looking forward to this so much. Obviously, just to fill people in on a little bit of your history. Obviously, Gary, when did you first come into the sport, mate? When was your first intro into arm wrestling?
2003.
Okay, so 2003, this man burst onto the scene, and he was everywhere and anywhere that they would literally allow him to point a camera. I think his only restriction was when other people did restrict him and said, no, you can't film this thing. Yeah. Because the man was mobile. Gary was everywhere, and he was bringing arm wrestling to the masses, big time, in top quality. Name and location, mother fluffers.
I had a dream.
But seriously, you were the torchbearer. You're the OG. Nobody was doing it back then. Certainly not like that.
Yeah.
You know?
My friend Harold. So I went to an arm wrestling. Can I tell the story?
Mate, that's what you're here for, dude.
Okay.
I wanna know what the beginnings were. Why Arm TV? Where did you get here? That's what people want to know.
So I had at that time I was doing three things. I was going to school. I was waiting tables at a restaurant. And I was editing videos on the side trying to pick up wedding gigs. So I was working like three things. And, at that time as an editor, the best way if you want to be an editor or you want to film things, the best thing you can do is just film anything you can. It's just practice. Going to like school or an official education is not really as handy as actually doing it. So I was in this mode where I was filming everything I can, but I was really busy doing weddings, and so it was very lovey-dovey and, you know what I mean, like love-sappy. And when I was at this festival, and I heard them announce an arm wrestling tournament on the backstage, and I immediately thought, over the top. I loved that movie as a kid. It just was always a movie, though. Nothing ever more. Never heard anything about it. Obviously, arm wrestled with friends here or there, brothers, but no, never anything other than that. So I go to this arm wrestling tournament, and it's at this festival, trees and people drinking beer and arm wrestling. And my first impression, I started filming this event, and I saw this tall, skinny guy come up to the stage, and he was...
I'm going to say that was me. Definitely wasn't me if he was skinny. I'm relatively...
Yeah. So it ended up being Harold Ryden, and he was really tall, really skinny at the time, and there was like a wannabe UFC fighter guy. Like he was, I don't know how.
Oh my word! I think Joe. Oh, what was his name?
Joe. Well, how did you know his name was Joe? I think that was it.
I remember the clip.
Yeah.
What's he called? He was in Ultimate Fighter. He was originally Ultimate Fighter, and then it's killing me. It'll come back to me.
So I remember, I don't know if he had a muscle shirt on, but I remember I could see his arms clear as day. And me, I mean, the most I ever got in the sports was I was a skateboarder. I never lifted weights or anything like that. So I saw this guy come up. He had his big old arms, kind of short, stockier, but I just was focused on his arms, and I saw this skinny guy, and I just thought to myself, oh man, the skinny guy's just gonna get whacked. And so I'm filming, and then the skinny guy, Harold, I didn't know it was a top roll, but he just top rolls him like pretty much with ease, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I was like, I can't wait to go home and edit this. So when the tournament was over, I shook a couple of the guys' hands. I told them it was awesome, and I gave my business card to Harold Ryden, and I say la vie. I went home. Well, like 2 days later, Harold called me up, and he's like, I'm on your website. And he's like, he was watching some of my kid videos, and he's like, man, you're really good. I loved your kid videos. And I was like, oh, I'm like 4 seconds away from uploading the clip I made of you and this guy at this tournament. And I made him refresh, and he watched the video, and he said these words. He said, wow, nobody does this. He said, nobody. And I was like, really? And then I went and looked at some arm wrestling websites, and there's just photo. I mean, the thing was that captured my brain is I was like, every website that I went to, I could not, from a still photo, I couldn't get the energy that I felt. And I was like, it's not a great sell, photos in arm wrestling. It can be cool, but anyways, he invited me over to his house for a practice that next Saturday, and I went over and I met Alan Fisher and Jeremy Plaster and a couple other guys. I think Greg Gray was there. It's so funny to see Greg Gray was on your show. Like, you guys were talking about Greg Gray like a week ago.
Yeah,
he was literally at this practice, albeit like 100 pounds lighter, little skinny, small frame dude. And Jeremy Plaster said, I would pay you two things. They said. So Harold said, nobody does this. Then somebody told me this is the largest underground sport in the world. And then Jeremy Plaster said, I would pay you to come to my event. And I was like, well, it sure was more fun than a wedding. I'll say that. Mm-hmm. So, nothing came of it. Then I think like a month later, Harold called me up with like 24 hours notice. And he's like, hey, I'm going to an event in Nevada. It's like a 7-hour drive. Do you want to go with me? And I was like,
as you do. Out of the blue. Amazing.
Yeah. I was like, really? And at the time, my ex-wife, I was like, hey, do you mind if I go on this road trip with this guy I just met? Of course, he was like, he lived like 10 minutes from my house, and it was such funny. It all just worked out. Harold's like the nicest guy on the planet.
Yeah, lovely guy.
I'm like, oh, I'll totally go on a road trip. I literally just met the guy, but I was like, oh yeah, let's go on a road trip. So the funny thing was, here's the funny thing that nobody knows, is that I went to Walmart and I bought a laptop on a credit card with money that I did not have to put the video that I made from the previous tournament on it. And at this tournament, the Avi Resorts, first time I met Leonard, guess who was there? The great John Brzezinski was at this tournament.
Amazing.
And I was walking around the aisles with the laptop with the video playing, showing people videos going, hey, I can do this for you. And that's kind of like how it started.
So when you got into that sort of competitive mindset of, I can make money from this. I can get out there and I can do something for it. Were you originally looking at doing videos of individuals? So in other words, I'll film you in this competition and you can buy your matches. Or were you looking at covering, did the sort of I'm going to become the last bastion or the first bastion of arm wrestling coverage, and I'm going to send things out to people and I'm going to create this wave in this underground sport? Where was your target? Which of those were you coming down the side of? Because you didn't finish saying what Jeremy Plaster said to you. He said, I would pay you too, and then you stopped.
So it just planted the idea. I didn't know how I would take it to the next level until, Dave Devoto, you know Dave Devoto, right?
Yeah. So we're in California, I'm taking it here, because I'm right in California. Yeah. So
Harold calls me. He goes, you got to meet this guy, Dave Devoto. And Dave Devoto called me up, and he's like, hey, he said at that time, I have the largest collection of arm wrestling videos, like in an archive that I want to share, that I want to put out there. They were all like the WWC, all the Petaluma stuff. He had them on like these old film reels. And he's like, I don't remember the details, but basically like, we should come together, you film events, I can give you my old footage, we create a website and put everything on there. And that's kind of how it started. In fact, he bought the very first camera I ever had. He was talking to Bessie and Savon of Pulling John. He asked them, what kind of camera do you have? And he went and bought the exact same camera, and he gave it to me. And he also bought my first plane tickets to Ottawa in 2003 Worlds.
So just join dots for a few people. If you don't know Dave Devoto was one of the guys who was absolute integral part of the birth of arm wrestling. So when arm wrestling first started out in terms of organized competition in Petaluma, California, Dave Devoto was right there at that inception, was right there at the start of things. So he was an originator himself of the sport of arm wrestling as an organized pastime, so very, very key. I'm sure when we have another show that we do called the Old School, Arm Wrestling Old School, you probably heard Dave Devoto's name mentioned in our first episode, and you'll hear it again, I'm sure.
Yeah, Eric brought it up. It definitely was integral. He helped. Harold planted the seed. Dave Devoto watered the seed. And the initial concept, when I went to the 2003 Worlds, where in Pulling John, Travis beat Alexei Vovoda.
Yeah.
I had not begun streaming all the videos. And the original concept, I would just make a DVD, and I would sell the DVD of the whole event. And the idea was just to film everything that I could.
Yeah, so you were taking the sort of wedding concept and just making it bigger.
Yeah.
Really.
So, and I've never really talked about what happened between Dave Devoto and I, so it's interesting that God brought it up because it's something happened later on.
You got it. Don't be doing the something happened cryptic crap. Not on here, mate. Not on here. This is where
no.
Tell us what went down. But get to it. Just take your time.
I came home.
A big chunk there, incidentally.
Well, I came home from that event, and I was like, it was like my eyes had been opened. I experienced a little small town event, and then I experienced this big event, and it's like, oh my gosh, this really could work. And the way I looked at it was like, everybody wins. At that time, I considered myself an entrepreneur, and I got a lot of pushback from like people were like, oh, you just want to make money. And it's like, in business, you find a need and fill it. And like the perfect world is like you find something you love to do and someone else loves that and you can pay your bills, and it's like a perfect world for everyone.
Yes,
and to me, like filming weddings, it really was horrible. I didn't like it. It's a beautiful day. It's their special day, but it's very high stress. And all I kept thinking was, on a wedding, if you miss like the magic moments, you could have someone pissed at you for life. I'm like, in arm wrestling, if I miss a match or two, it's not, it's like no one's gonna kill me if I miss a match or two.
No.
I was like, it's so much more fun, yet the stress level is completely different. So I was like, well, I would much rather pay my bills doing this and have a great time. The community and meeting people and making friends for life, I had no idea about all that early on. But anyways, I came home and I started just peppering Harold with questions. I was like, so give me the big picture. And he basically said there's a couple organizations. And he brought up Leonard Denise and he brought AAA and he talked about how there was like a battle and they didn't get along. And everyone was like, it was like no one liked each other. And all I kept thinking was like, ooh, I know if I get into the sport of arm wrestling and this really works, I will not have that. I will want to unite everyone. And that was like my initial goal. I was like, there's no way I'm going to pick a side. I'll film their organization and I'll film their organization, and Arm TV can just give exposure to everybody. And that was like my initial vision. That was my first conversation I remember when I was like, oh, I could take this to another level. Was like when I found out the politics of it, I was like, oh, I would do it different. I'd want to help everyone. There's no reason why everyone can't benefit in this world. And I click on ESPN and they cover all the major sports. And I was like, Arm TV could be the ESPN for arm wrestling, where we just, we give them the exposure they need. And it's like this beautiful marriage of everything. So to just close up the Dave DeVoto thing is that Dave DeVoto was awesome and he really helped. He put the water and he got the ball rolling. But when I started to realize that this was going to be a life passion of mine, and I wanted to put it in like 10th gear and just go for it and go everywhere, he was like, yo, that's not the speed I'm rolling. And I was like, hey, bro, this is something I'm going to do. And if you're not going to be on board with the speed that I'm going, like at that time he was helping finance it. And I was like, oh, I want to buy a hard drive. And he said no. And I was like, I need to buy a hard drive. I cannot do this without extra hard drives. And then the real kicker is when we started to do good, everyone loved it. And then when television came along, like he started working deals with John Bergeson, and they were getting TV deals and putting the Plaza on Fox Sports. And I really felt like abandoned at that time. I was really
that was the ultimate Las Vegas event, wasn't it? Yeah.
And my feelings were really hurt. It was like, I kind of felt like, oh, you liked me when television wasn't there. And then it's kind of like you broke up with me once you got the television contract. So that's kind of how that went off. I was like, okay, I'll just do my own thing. You guys focus on TV. I'll cover your stuff. But it's like any official business was kind of over at that point. That was the way how I looked at it. Wow. Anyways.
So when you first saw arm wrestling, mate, that day at the fair when you watched Harold Ryder beat, it's killing me, that Joe.
It was Joe something. I can't believe you remember Joe. You must have been an Arm TV fan, bro.
Yeah, big time, mate. Oh, it's killing me. That will come back to me, I swear to God. Anyway. Oh, it popped in. Oh my God, it popped in. Joe Daddy Stevenson. That's what he was called. Joe Stevenson. Joe Daddy Stevenson. That was his name. Yes, that was annoying me. Thank you very much.
I don't even remember that.
That's his name.
Anyways, that's
check
impressive.
that out. I'm going to check that out later. Anyway, that's that. God, I'm glad we got out of the way because that was killing me, man. You know when it was really there. Anyway, Joe Daddy Stevenson, when you first saw Harold Ryder and him go at it, were you a fan then? Did you like arm wrestling, or was it just the wow factor of that happening?
I mean, you really have to take in. I love movies, right? I'm a big movie goer, and this is going to be cheesy, and it's just is what it is. Imagine if you were a fan of Star Wars, And then one day you find out the Millennium Falcon exists and you get to go aboard it. It's like, you're like, Star Wars is real? What? And it's like, you meet Chewbacca. And I loved Over the Top as a movie. I watched it so many times. But it's like, I don't know if I'm stupid that I didn't realize that it was actually real and not a movie. And so when I saw the arm wrestling tournament, my whole brain just kept thinking, wait, this is real? I thought it was just a movie. And it's like, it's a real thing. And it just, my brain just couldn't connect the two that, you know, movies for me, are make-believe, right? You know, now that's big true life and documentaries, but, you know, as a kid growing up, it was all about make-believe, watching something be brought to life that you can't do in the real life. And that's what I thought Over the Top was. And so when I saw this tournament, it was like, this is real. I can't believe it. It's amazing. And, you know, I just was so excited to go home, and I wanted to edit it to some like rock and roll music. I pictured like some AC/DC or that clip of Harold. I actually put some Gladiator music to it. And, so it was just this culmination of feeling the excitement, completely being blown away that like I couldn't predict the outcome. Unlike Travis. Travis says on your show, quote, I know arm wrestling so well. As soon as two guys connect together, I can predict the future, basically, seeing how they grip up. I, you know, as a new person, nowhere near that. And I just couldn't believe that the skinny guy beat the big guy. And anyways.
So it's a wow factor. I mean, I get that. I mean, you know, I don't know what other films you watch, but somebody comes up to me and says, like, Neil, fake taxi? That's real. I'm like,
fake taxi. Oh my God. That's funny.
Anyway. So, once you've got over that initial shock of Ryden winning the match, and you go to the World Championships, and talk about go from 0 to 60. You're at a state fair show, and then you go to the World Championships at your next event. That's kind of like you say, that's a hell of a wow factor.
Yeah.
How long after that did the seeds of this is how we're going to do it come together, or was that just an evolution over time? Wow.
Well, I remember I went really. At that time, you could code websites yourself. HTML wasn't too complicated. And I remember going home and just getting really fired up and going, oh, I've got to do this. And then Dave gave me the tapes. And so I just really focused on making a website and getting the videos out there. And the funny thing is I remember this so distinctly. And there was, at that time, the only social media was like, message boards, AAA message board, and it's like, it's funny, is there's no Facebook yet, all the information got around, it like worked perfectly well. And I remember the day that I launched the website, it was January 20th or January 18th. I had 317 signups within like 2 days. 317.
And at what rate was that, mate? At what rate what was the sort of fee, membership fee?
You got 3 months at $17.
3 months at, you got Ryan Bowen beat now.
Yeah, 3 months at $17. It was like, I couldn't believe it, man. It was amazing. And then, so at that point, it was just like, okay, now you need content. So you gotta go. And I just envisioned, like you said, oh, he's everywhere. I just envisioned the world where I'd have film crews around the world, and we'd be covering arm wrestling. We'd be sponsoring arm wrestlers. We'd be sponsoring tournaments, and we'd be the best thing that could ever happen to arm wrestling. That was my dream.
It's a family feel, though, wasn't it, mate? I mean, come on. That was a family feel. Arm wrestling's a family feel anyway. Let's be honest, it is a big community. Like nothing I've ever really experienced, I'm going to be honest, but that was some good stuff, wasn't it? It was like a massive reunion every time we got anywhere. You were going all over to competitions, and you pop up camera, you turn around, camera in your face, name and location, off we go, boom. Yeah,
I really had, that was the biggest unexpected, like, benefit. Like, for some reason, the Harley pull sticks out to me. Like, my memories of the Harley pull are not the Harley pull. My memories of the Harley pull are the the atrium was in the center and everyone's hanging out. And I just remember all night long people hanging out and having a good time. And it's like just seeing all these friends and they're now family. It's like my biggest memories are those moments of, going to, I get to see so-and-so when I get to X. And it's like every weekend I got to do that. It was like the greatest blessing. I was the luckiest dude on the earth, to be honest, that I got to do that for as long as I did.
I mean, it brought it home to me. It was like a reminder. Obviously, you've just started putting the YouTube clips out, and if you haven't checked out Gary's stuff yet, believe me, beasties be here. A storm is coming, because this guy has content he's probably got 10 years of content now. I mean, he put a thing up the other day, which it gave me a bit of a flashback. It was the 2009 Worlds, I think it was, in Italy. And that made me smile, because at that point, it was the sort of global notoriety that ArmTV had at that point, where you were meeting people from literally every corner of the globe there at the Worlds, and everybody had it down. Everybody knew what to do when the camera came on them. And it was almost like wildlife filming. You set up a hide, and here we are you're in the undergrowth, and the hide goes up, and they become so familiar with it, they just behave as though you're in your natural habitat. It was literally like that. You point the ArmTV cam, you got some gold, mate, because people didn't change. They didn't act up for the camera. They were just them. It was like you were in camouflage, plain as day. It was mega.
In one of the videos I posted, somebody commented, "I can't believe how comfortable these guys are around you, and they're just chatting with the camera in their face." They're like, "It's so weird that they're so comfortable." And I'm like, it just became a way of life for us. I'll give you one. My favorite story is Luke Kent. You know Luke Kent, right?
Yeah, I know him. Absolutely.
Yeah. So when I first met Luke, and I'm going off a memory because it's a little bit foggy, but it's as I start posting out these videos, and if you follow along, you're gonna feel the story unfold as it happened. When I first met Luke, from my memory, is that he was not comfortable being filmed. He was not comfortable talking on camera. Mm-hmm. He was really awkward. But every event, we both lived in California, and he kept showing up to the events. I kept showing up, and I just kept putting the camera on him. And I just never realized anything significant happened. Well, then we got to chatting a couple of years later, and the whole Game of Arms. He was on Game of Arms, and he was doing his. He really developed a personality, and he really got out of himself. Like, I remember one Nationals, he got a bad call, and he kicks the water bottle 30 yards off the stage, and he's like, "Fuck this place, I'm out of here." And it was like he just was really animated, and of course. I love that shit. I mean, for camera, I'm all about. I don't want the video to be boring. So anything that happens to make it exciting is good for TV, in my opinion. Well, anyways, I'm chatting with Luke, and he's like, "Gary, I want to thank you because you helped me feel comfortable on camera." He's like, "I would not be where I am today without you showing up at all the tournaments and getting me comfortable with being filmed." He's like, "It really did help me come out of myself and not be so." I texted him last week. He goes, "Do you remember when I used to, after I aired a clip, he would text me or message me, and he'd ask me to delete his interview because he didn't like how he was on camera." So I was like, "Oh yeah, I kind of do remember that." And he's like, "Anyways, I want to thank you because you helped me like flourish as a person to be on camera. Anyways, I was like, yeah, that felt special. I was like, I loved being helpful. I mean, I got to do something that I loved and that other people loved. It was very rewarding. And it's like, anyways, to get back to the Worlds, it was like, it became like, oh yeah, awesome. We're doing something amazing. The arm wrestlers love it. It's like, this is working. Anyways,
it was organic though. None of this stuff, what you say, obviously things go, they're better when they're not forced. And when the camera's there, sometimes you lose that magic. On TV, it was sort of so organic. You were so part of the furniture. Well, like I said, with the wildlife reference, it was like you were the camera was almost camouflage. You were there, but people were so used to it. I mean, the everyday tasks you'd be doing, and sort of unaware or unconcerned of the fact that there's a camera pointing at you. It's catching all this. You're there going down on a girl. You're like, Gary, can you pass me that towel? It's like just anything could be happening, and there's a camera in the room, and people are just cracking on. In hotel lobbies, some of the stuff that you must have on camera, God knows what. I bet you must have cried laughing at home.
Dude, listen, I'm not gonna. I won't, because people probably have families now, but watching the Canadian, I'm going through the Canadian Nationals, and I'm reminded of a certain Canadian arm wrestler that I remember one time. It was again at one of the after parties, and I was filming, and he pulls out. He's dancing with his girlfriend, and when no one's looking,
I like how you said he pulls out of what, Gary? What were you filming?
Dude, I was just him filming. I was filming with him, and he pulls out his girlfriend's boob, and he starts sucking on her nipple on camera. And I just remember his tongue, he's doing like a little swirly in slow motion around her nipple. And I'm like, he knows I'm from
place here. We are back on Fake Taxi.
And I was like, okay, I don't know just what happened, but I obviously can't put this on the website.
No.
So I sent him the clip privately. I was like, I don't know if you want this, but I can't remember where that clip is, but that just goes to show you everyone was comfortable. They were like, it was like, oh, yeah, Gary Roberts is the old furniture in the living room. So
mate, what was at what point did you think to yourself, right, this is it. I'm in this thing. I'm staying with this. I mean, how sort of far on the journey were you where you decided it's all in and you went pilot? Because for people who don't know, this wasn't a case of just going to events, pointing cameras at people and editing stuff. You ended up putting together tournament series. I mean, talk to us about the Ruler of the Nation.
So, first, before the Ruler of the Nation, there was 1 year. I think it was the next year. So when I went to that Worlds, I was waiting tables. I was going to school full time. I had a kid, and I was trying to film arm wrestling. And it was the next year I had finals, and I was really struggling with working, doing arm TV, and trying to study for finals. Now, some people may not know, I was a disabled veteran. I hurt my knee in the Marine Corps. And I qualified. And later on, when arm TV didn't work out, I kind of kicked myself because I had a full tuition paid, 100% funded scholarship through a re-education program to help disabled veterans get jobs. They paid for my school. They paid for my books, pens, paper. If you needed a computer, you could turn in the receipt. It was a full ride, 100% full ride.
Mm-hmm.
And now I don't know if you know, but I'm remarried.
Yeah.
But my wife at the time, my ex-wife, Anissa, I'll never forget. I came home, and we didn't make a lot of money. We didn't make a lot of money when our daughter was young. And I remember when I came home, it was a very difficult conversation. I was like, hey, I need to buy a camcorder. And she's like, we can't afford a camcorder. And I was like, if I want to film weddings, I need to update the camera and yada, yada. And it was like, at that time, you needed to invest in yourself. And it was like, oh, should I do this? That was like a big day. I think the camera's $550 that I put on a credit card. And then, so now fast forward a couple years, I'm having the conversation where I'm like, I know. So I sit the family down and I say, listen, I know this is going to work. I know it's a huge risk, but if I devote 100% of my time to this, which I understand family comes with, like, I'm not going to be around or I'm going to miss things. And I'm like, I'm doing this for my family, but I'm going to quit school. I'm going to quit school. I'm going to quit school. And my wife at the time, she's like, are you stupid? You are really stupid. And I was like, I'm telling you, I can't do it all. I can't wait tables, do arm TV, and go to school. I can't do it all. Arm wrestling has to be the focus. This is what I want to do. Now, at that time, because I was full paid, you had to pick a chair of what you were going to be. And I wanted to do something creative. I'm a creative spirit, but back then, I wanted to do like special effects in movies.
Okay.
And when I went to college, the administrator, the counselor person, they were like, no, we only pay for school for like real jobs, not creative jobs. And so I was in the accounting category. Kind of my secondary passion was like financial planning. And so I was going to school to be an accountant. And I was like, if I pictured my future, I was like, do you want to be at a desk crunching numbers, which that's not you, but they made you pick something? Or do you want to be filming arm wrestling, changing the world for this sport? And I'm like, I want to do arm wrestling. That's what I want to do. And I told my family I'm going to quit school, and they were like, you're nuts. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. So I never finished the finals. I never went back.
Take a minute, brother.
I'm sorry.
Mate, nothing to be sorry about. Nothing to be sorry about, Gary. I know this was massive for you, mate.
I'm sorry, Matt.
Mate, don't worry about it, guys. I know at the time how much this mattered to you, mate. And so do all the other guys. Just take your time, brother.
I'm sorry, man.
Don't worry about it, man. Don't worry about it, man. Just a minute.
No one in my life saw what I saw. Everyone thought, all the arm wrestlers, they're in the sport because they love to arm wrestle, which I ultimately didn't realize that I would start to love to arm wrestle too. I was the worst arm wrestler in the world. I was terrible, but ultimately I became a decent arm wrestler. But the people in the sport of arm wrestling, they loved to arm wrestle. Their visions were to become champion, world champion, to beat Jake Smith or whatever. It's like, that's why they were in the sport. And I had this different vision of what I wanted to do for the sport. And it felt very lonely because no one at that time believed me
of what I wanted to do, what I thought we could do. And it was a very lonely place on the planet. Yes, people wished me luck and they were happy and they were excited, but no one quite understood what I wanted to do, especially my family and friends, people not in the arm wrestling world. You know, at that time, I had conversations with my Anissa, my ex-wife. She was like, "Hey, I'm embarrassed to tell people what you do for a living." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "It's embarrassing. I don't know how to describe what you do." And I was like, you know, I was on a budget, so I couldn't necessarily afford to take her to all the tournaments. So she didn't become as bonded with the arm wrestlers, and it became this very friction and I mean, I don't know, to just sum it up, the Lake Tahoe event every year was on May 18th, was my daughter's birthday. She was pissed at me for life. She's still mad at me that I picked arm wrestling over her because I would drag the family to Lake Tahoe, and I missed my best friend's wedding. There was a wedding in the East Coast with super matches, and I didn't go to my best friend's wedding from high school. I instead went to film arm wrestling because I had this vision and I was singularly focused, and I believed this is what I need to do to accomplish my dream of what I can do. And anyways, it was a tough, when you say, when did you know, arm wrestling for me, if you want to kind of sum them up, arm wrestling for me became more of a guy at a casino gambling, like, you know, betting your rent money on the table. Not necessarily the wise business choice. I was never a great businessman. So, anyways, I just remember having a conversation. I said, listen, I'm the one that provides for the family. This is where I feel the direction needs to go. I don't want to wait tables all my life. I don't want to be an accountant. I want to film arm wrestling, and I want one day Arm TV to be seen as like ESPN, you know, big. And anyways, I went that direction. When I was younger, I was reading, you know, how-to books, and basically it was like, hey man, if you want to do something, never give up. Keep knocking on the doors. No matter how many doors are said no and slammed in your face, you gotta just keep going. You gotta just push through. And that leads me to Don Fritchie. Don Fritchie was our sponsor for the Ruler of the Nation, and I was having a conversation with him one day, and I was telling him my goals, my vision, and he's like, I believe in you, don't give up. And he's like, I will fund your one of your dreams. And he gave me $20,000.
Now, Gary, let me stop you there, mate. That brings us to the end of this first episode with Gary. We like to leave it on a cliffhanger, brother. We like to leave it on a cliffhanger. So we're going to end the first one. This brings us to the end of the first episode. Look at Gary. His heart. He's pouring out, man. He's pouring out. And I'm just... Well, don't worry, mate. We'll be back in 1 second. Ladies and gentlemen, if this is your first time, the Supernatural Strength channel, and you like what we do, please like, please share, and please hit that subscribe button. And more important than that, please back this boy. Gary Roberts, tell these people where they can find you at, mate.
Well, just search Arm TV on YouTube. I guess I've been forced to become a YouTuber. I was doing what YouTubers are doing now. I was doing that on my own, but now I guess I have to conform to. So just go on YouTube, search Arm TV, and you'll find our channel.
Ladies and gentlemen, Arm TV. Arm TV. If you don't know it, check out Jamie Sheldon's right titty. It's tattooed on that titty. Who else has got it tattooed? Two of them got it tattooed. Sheldon's right titty. Where'd the other one go?
John Bergeson.
John Bergeson on his side, on his ribs. Get that, bad boy. That's when you're committed to the cause. I'll not tell you what my wife's got tattooed and where. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this first episode, we will be back with Gary Roberts again very, very soon. Until that time, gentlemen, take it easy, peeps.